Good afternoon, esteemed guests. On behalf of the Australian National Department of Young Scholars Research Team at Monash University, I am pleased to extend a warm welcome to the representatives of the Australian Government's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. We appreciate your presence at today's conference, where we will conduct a comprehensive evaluation of India's viability as a market for Australian firms. India, the world's most populous nation with an estimated 1.417 billion residents, plays a pivotal role in South Asia's geopolitical and economic landscape. It is an emerging market, a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic, and has a common legal system. During this session, our team will provide an in-depth analysis of key factors, including the influence of globalization on India's political economy, its economic and human development trajectory, the cultural distinctions between Australia and India, the sectors India should specialize in to bolster its global trade competitiveness, and a review of its trade policies.
Thank you, Eva, and a very warm welcome to everyone. My name is Madhumitha, and I am the head of Legal Affairs. In this presentation, I will be discussing how globalization has influenced the political, economic, and social systems of India and the challenges an Australian firm might face when entering the Indian market. Firstly, the economic impact. Since the early 90s, India has shifted from a more closed economy to a mixed market economy through trade liberalization and economic reforms. These reforms opened the Indian market to foreign direct investment, FDI, particularly in sectors like telecommunications, IT, and manufacturing. India's growing involvement in global trade, especially through its membership in the BRICS group, reflects the transition, positioning the country as an emerging global player. This economic liberalization has led to rapid growth, particularly in technology and service sectors, making India's key outsourcing destination. However, the benefits of this growth has not been evenly distributed. Urban centers have experienced significant wealth creation while many rural areas remain underdeveloped, exacerbating income inequality. The uneven distribution of wealth underscores the need for more inclusive economic policies to ensure that the broader population benefits from India's global integration. Politically, globalization has driven major reforms in India, aimed at creating a more business friendly environment. The government has implemented a series of measures to improve the ease of doing business, attract foreign investment, and enhance infrastructure to support economic growth. These challenges reflect India's strategy of aligning with global trade network and improving its international competitiveness. However, this transition has not been without challenges. The integration into the global market has exposed weaknesses within India's public sector. For example, there have been instances of fake markets where public rights and interests are sometimes compromised in favor of market based approaches. These issues can create an unpredictable environment for businesses and raise questions on how public goods are managed in face of global economic pressures. Socially, globalization has brought both opportunities and challenges to India's workforce and cultural dynamics. On the other hand, globalization has created millions of jobs in high growth sectors, especially in technology, finance, and communication. This has helped lift a portion of the population over poverty and into middle class. On the other side, the gap between the rich and the poor has widened. Rural areas often being left behind in terms of development, social disparities between urban and rural populations have increased, creating tensions that must be addressed through policies promoting inclusive growth. Additionally, globalization and influence customer behavior with Indian customers adapting to more global lifestyles, tastes, and preferences, particularly in urban areas. The cultural shift has sparked debates about the prevention of local tradition versus embracing global influences. Challenges for an Australian firm. For Australian firms entering the Indian market, the challenges are multi-faced. First and foremost, in India's complex regulatory environment, the regulatory framework, while improving, is still marked by bureaucratic hurdles and frequent regulatory changes. This creates a need for businesses to have thorough understanding of compliance requirements and be able to adapt quickly to shifts in policy. Secondly, the legal landscape in India can pose difficulties. Contract law, civil law in India differ significantly from the Australian practices, making contract negotiations and enforcement a challenging process. For example, India's judicial system is known for its lengthy legal processes, meaning the disputes can take over years to resolve. Corruption and lack of transparency in certain sectors can further complicate operations, posing additional legal risks for foreign firms. Lastly, labor laws present challenges, especially for managing a large, diverse workforce. The country has stringent regulations regarding wages, working conditions, and labor rights. Additionally, navigating through cultural differences in management and operations can be complex, as there are variations in workplace cultures, communication styles, and expectations. A firm understanding a local labor practice and regulations is essential to ensure compliance and smooth operations. In conclusion, globalization has opened up significant opportunities for growth in India, but it has also presented a unique set of challenges. For Australian firms looking into establishing a presence in the dynamic market, understanding the legal, regulatory, and cultural landscape is crucial for success. India's complex regulatory framework, legal system, and diverse social environment require careful consideration and strategic planning. With the right approach, however, firms can successfully navigate these challenges and take advantage of opportunities offered by the Indian growing economy. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. I will now pass the presentation to my next speaker, Eva, the head of Human Development and Research.
Thank you, Madhu, for your assessment. As the lead analyst for economic and human development, I'll be evaluating whether India is a viable market for an Australian firm based on economic and human development metrics. These indicators provide insights into the market's financial prospects and potential challenges. India's economic development is best captured by examining its gross national income per capita, adjusted for purchasing power parity. Over the past decade, India has demonstrated impressive economic growth. GNI per capita has surged from 74.97 trillion rupees in 2013 to 119.24 trillion rupees in 2023. When adjusted for PPP, this growth translates to a rise from 5.68 million USD to 9.05 million over the same period, marking a 59% increase. This upward trajectory is poised to continue, as evidenced by India's 6.3% increase in GNI per capita last year, starkly contrasting with Australia's 0% growth rate. India's strong economic performance underscores the increasing wealth and purchasing power of its residents. The middle class is expanding rapidly, with projections estimating it will increase to 47% of the populace by 2031, stimulating an increase in domestic demand of goods and services. The nation has also seen a shift towards greater democracy and economic liberalization, fostering a more conducive environment for innovation and entrepreneurship, key drivers of economic growth. Combined with the fact India has a vast and growing population, these trends make the country an enticing landscape for market entry, offering tremendous growth potential, especially as Australia faces economic stagnation. Particularly, the Indian Household Expenditure Consumption Survey for 2023 indicates that Indian consumers are increasingly purchasing milk, dried fruits, and beverages, making these sectors promising avenues for Australian firms entering the Indian market. India's rapid economic development positions it as an emerging economy, as well as a member of the BRICS group, among the world's largest and fastest financial empires. Shifting focus, India's human development can be assessed using the Human Development Index, which factors in life expectancy, education, and income levels. As of 2022, India is classified as having medium human development, ranking 134th out of 195 countries. India's HDI score stands at 0.644, with a life expectancy at birth of 67.7 years, expected years of schooling at 12.6, mean years of schooling of 6.6, and a GNI per capita of 6,951 USD PPP. Although India has made progress from a HDI of 0.594 in 2012, it still lags behind many developed nations, such as Australia, which ranks 10th globally and boasts a significantly higher score of 0.946. Australia's superior educational, health, and income standards foreshadows potential challenges for a business seeking to enter the Indian market. For example, India's comparatively lower quality of education infrastructure may necessitate additional training initiatives to bridge the gap between local employees and expatriates from Australia. Furthermore, the shorter career longevity and potential health related absences of Indian workers could increase operational costs and affect productivity. Based on this analysis, economic development emerges as the most important factor for an Australian firm contemplating market entry into India. Considering Australia's recent slowdown in GNI growth, Australian firms are likely seeking to integrate into markets with stronger growth prospects. India's impressive economic performance, as evidenced by a 59% increase in GNI per capita over the past decade, in combination with its vast population, expanding middle class, and rising purchasing power, makes it an attractive environment for businesses looking to escape economic stagnation. Additionally, India's ongoing economic reforms have cultivated a more conducive environment for innovation and entrepreneurship, offering a promising landscape for investment and growth. Moreover, India's membership in the BRICS group further elevates its status as an influential player in the global economy, reinforcing its appeal as a high potential market for entry and expansion. While the nation's human development challenges may necessitate strategic adjustments, they are manageable in the context of India's significant economic potential. A poor economic landscape, however, directly impacts a firm's ability to grow and generate revenue. In conclusion, despite health and education hurdles, India's strong and sustained economic growth, coupled with its evolving business climate, presents Australian firms with substantial opportunities for expansion and long term success. I'll now pass on to our head of cultural analysis, Anuja.
Thank you, Eva, for your research. Hi, I'm Anuja Rao, the head of cultural analysis, and I'm going to assess the cultural distance between India and Australia. We can use two widely recognized theories, Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory and Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters, to do so. These frameworks help us understand the difference in values, behaviors, and practices between different cultures. Looking at Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters, this approach categorizes countries into clusters based on shared cultural traits and values. India is grouped within the South Asian cluster, known for strong familial ties, collectivism, respect for hierarchy, and a significant influence of religion on daily life. Australia, on the other hand, belongs to the Anglo cluster, characterized by high levels of individualism and a preference for equality and independence. To fully assess the dynamics outlined by Ronan and Schenker, I will look at how these clusters align with Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. This theory identifies 6 dimensions that represent different cultural preferences and values. Let's compare India and Australia on these dimensions. For the purpose of this presentation, I will focus on 2, power distance and uncertainty avoidance. First, power distance, measured between 0 and 100. This dimension measures the extent to which less powerful members of a society accept and expect power to be distributed unequally. The global average is 59. India scores high on the power distance, sitting at 77, reflecting a hierarchical society where authority is respected and those in power are not questioned. In real terms, this means that employees are heavily dependent on trusted authority figures. People are told the do's and don'ts rather than proactively seeking out information. This does not, however, imply authoritarian-esque rule or strong coercion. Indians are uniquely receptive of soft power, which is a key characteristic of those in charge. Australia, in comparison, scores relatively low on the power distance index, scoring 38. Unlike India, those in Australian society expect an even distribution of power. Hierarchies are established as a convenience, and leaders are seen to be easily accessible. Next is uncertainty avoidance, which deals with society's tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity. Australia scores 51 out of 100 in uncertainty avoidance. Australians perceive uncertainty or ambiguity as a threat and develop organizations, laws, and beliefs to try to mitigate the negative effects of uncertainty. India scores slightly lower with a score of 40 out of 100. which reflecting a mix of values, traditional values, and a growing acceptance for change. India has always been a patient nation with a high threshold for the unexpected. In general, Indians feel comfortable falling into established roles and routines without questioning and do not feel motivated to obligated to take action. To conclude, the disparities between India and Australia are vast. Whilst they hold some cultural similarities in their approach to uncertainty, the meaning of hierarchy and proactivity could present challenges when expanding to India. Companies will need to ensure that they are respectful of India's diverse culture and distinct business practices without sacrificing their core values and beliefs. Thank you for your time. Now I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Jamie Shaw, our lead international trade analyst.
Thank you, Anuja. My name is Jamie Shaw, and I am the head of international trade analysis. I will be discussing which industries India should specialize in for international trade, using Adam Smith's theory of absolute advantage and David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage. Adam Smith's theory of absolute advantage argues that a country should specialize in producing goods it can create more efficiently than others, using fewer resources like labor and capital. Specialization based on absolute advantage allows countries to maximize their output by focusing on sectors where they have a clear efficiency edge. India's absolute advantage industries. India's IT sector exemplifies absolute advantage. Companies like TCS and Wipro offer software services at a fraction of the cost compared to a developed country due to India's large pool of skilled engineers and lower wage cost. Textiles and apparel. India's favorable climate and history of textile manufacturing provide a natural advantage in the creation of textiles and apparel. It has developed efficient supply chains producing high-quality textiles at a lower cost. India is a global leader in textiles and apparel, benefiting from its natural resource and efficient labor practices. Finally, pharmaceuticals. India is known as the pharmacy of the world. India leads in generic drug production. Its pharmaceutical industry is supported by advanced manufacturing and cost-effective processes, enabling India to supply affordable medicines globally, especially to developing countries. David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantages focuses on an opportunity cost rather than outright efficiency. Even if a country lacks an absolute advantage, it can specialize in producing goods where its opportunity costs are lowest compared to others, leading to an efficient trade. India's comparative advantage industries. India has become a global hub for business process outsourcing (BPO) services, including customer support and data processing, due to its lower wage and English proficiency. Despite competition, India remains a comparative advantage in this sector through its cost efficiency. For agricultural products, India holds a comparative advantage in producing crops like rice, spices, and tea due to its favorable climate and fertile soil. Though not having an absolute advantage in all agricultural goods, India remains in these crops relative to its industrial goods or high-tech sectors. Finally, low mid-range textiles. India's capacity to produce low and mid-range textiles cost efficiently provides a comparative advantage. While countries like China dominate the high-end textile market, India's specialization in affordable textiles offers it its competitive edge. Now, which theory should India follow? Though India enjoys absolute advantages in sectors like IT, textiles, and pharmaceuticals, David Ricardo's comparative advantage offers a more strategic framework for guiding India's trade strategy. Diverse industrial strengths in India's economy, with the varying levels of productivity. By focusing comparative advantage, India can maximize trade potential even in sectors where it isn't the most efficient, specializing in areas where it has the lowest opportunity cost, allowing India to better utilize its resources across all the industries, adapting to a dynamic global market. The global economy is constantly changing with the new technologies and shifts in a resource availability. Absolute advantage can be short-lived as competitors emerge. However, a strategy based on comparative advantage allows India to adapt more flexibly by focusing to industries where its opportunity cost remains low. helping maintaining long-term competitiveness. Finally, inclusive economic growth. A comparative advantage strategy fosters inclusive growth, allowing India to leverage its diverse labour force and regional strengths. This ensures trade benefits are spread across all the sectors and regions, supporting balanced economic development and reduced regional disparities. In conclusion, India's trade should prioritize comparative advantage as it allows for greater adaptability, diverse industrial strengths, and a more inclusive economic growth. Thank you for listening. Now passing to Ava for a review on the trade policy instruments for India.
Thank you for that assessment, Jamie. I now briefly touch on trade policy instruments employed by the Indian government and what trade theories they support. India has tariffs, they have subsidies, import quotas. I've put some examples of all of these just on the screen here, you can have a look. There's also anti-dumping duties and local content requirements. All of these trade policies align with the trade theory of neo-mercantilism. Neo-mercantilism aims to shield a country's domestic industries by establishing a trade surplus, in which exports are maximized through subsidization and imports are minimized through protectionist measures like tariffs and quotas. High tariffs, subsidies, import quotas, anti-dumping duties, and local content requirements all seek to reduce dependency on foreign producers and foster local economic growth and independence. Now, to summarise, I would like to again thank the representatives of the Australian Government's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade for attending this meeting today. We covered the influence of globalisation on India's political economy, economic and human development, culture, sectors India should specialise in for global competitive edge, and trade policies. We hope the research we have collated will guide you in your decisions of whether or not Australian businesses should integrate into the Indian market. Have a lovely evening.